What's up, my friends? It's Austin Broussard, Yale MBA and former Bain and Company consultant, here to talk you through just a few important things you should think about before you go and buy that business. Look, I know search funds are important. I know search funds are the hottest thing right now. A lot of people want to do entrepreneurship through acquisition as opposed to starting a business from scratch. They want to go buy a business that's already in place, already has cash flow and systems. But there are some things that you should take a look at before you go and take that step. If you don't mind, I'll jump right into the information. Let's take a look. Okay, first things first, the reason why you see a screenshot of an email on screen is because of the fact that there are a bunch of YouTube and social media gurus out there who claim to have done X, Y, or Z, but can't provide any documentation of that actually having happened. And so I just wanted to show you, this is a screenshot from 2013. I was blessed enough to have a full-time job offer from one of the top 3 consulting firms in the world before I even started my senior year of college. That's not to brag. And again, I spent a little bit of time in an internship at Deloitte before even doing the Bain internship. But the point here is that I'm not just a fly-by-night individual who's hopping online and wants to talk about business with you. Instead, I'm someone who's had some pretty decent training in some of the institutions that have created more value than many other consultancies in this world. And I look forward to having the rest of this conversation, but I wanted to start there just so that you could have proof that I am who I say I am, at least from that regard. So if we move forward, right? I told you before my senior year, I had a full-time job offer, which meant that when I graduated, I had the cords around my neck, I had my family with me. My sister had actually just graduated from law school the day before I did, before I graduated from undergrad, excuse me. And life was great. Honestly, it was perfect. I graduated and I had a full-time job where I got a corporate credit card. I got to travel for free. I got to eat for free. I was traveling 4 days a week. I had business cards. I thought I was on top of the world. I was 22 years old. What else was I supposed to think? Um, and to be honest, it did feel like that. But what I realized just 6 months after I started that job is that life can change quickly. I mean, very quickly, and it doesn't have to warn you about what's coming next. So, why would I have a picture of a cemetery here? Well, we're talking about what you should think about before going to buy a business. And the reason why that's necessary is because it's all fun and games until the debt service creeps up on you and life is also happening at the same time, right? So 6 months after I started at Bain, I lost the very sibling that's standing in this picture with me. And it showed me that I wanted something out of my career that I was not currently getting, and I needed to be the person to figure it out for myself. Because the truth is, I learned something at that time that honestly, it wasn't the institution's fault. I don't blame them. It's their job to make as much value for their clients as possible. It's their job to have producing consultants on their team. And as someone who at that point needed to heal, I stayed around for another, I believe, year and a half at that point. But I realized that there was no one in my life that could buy me time. And I didn't have a rags to riches story where I came from the absolute bottom. In fact, we were solidly middle class, right? I had parents who cared and really invested in my education, and all those things had happened. But then when life happened, I realized I did not have all the tools. And in fact, I didn't even know how to make money. I was making money because someone was paying me because I had made myself eligible as an employee to get a job. And again, I was at a great place. This is not to disparage Bain at all. I guarantee that's not what this is about. But what happened is I realized that there was no one who could buy me time, and I actually needed time to heal, to find peace, to do all the things that are necessary after that kind of life event. And so I said, hey, let me figure out entrepreneurship. And you all, I'm telling you, I've tried a lot of things. I've, of course, stuck with the real estate and the investing part because that's tried and true. There's such a huge percentage of people that have wealth that have invested in real estate because it's something that works. It's actually one of the oldest subscription models on earth. But I also tried to have a tax franchise. I tried drop shipping. I've taught high ticket coaching, and I'll talk about all that stuff in just a second. But I just want you to know first of all, also for real estate, I'll talk about it in a second. I raised capital. I deployed capital. I bought multifamily. I did the things that you would think you should do as a new entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur who's not just coming from the place that everybody else is, but you're coming from a place of being informed, being professionally skilled, and having some of the resources to go raise capital if you need to go and get bank financing if you need to, or SBA financing if you need to. This first check, though, again, I want to show you all verifiable proof of the things that I'm talking about. This is 2017, I believe it was. And you can see kind of the check amount. At that point, was holding an amount in my hands that most of my friends did not have access to, at least not at once. And yet again, after being in such a valley of life, I felt like I'd made it. I felt like I'd figured out something that would allow me to have at least some control of my time again, and at least the ability to say, okay, on days that I need to be okay, I can do that. But what I realized when I was investing in real estate, raising capital, flipping houses, doing those things, was that every time I sold a house, I was functionally unemployed. I had to go find another deal in order to be successful, in order to kind of continue my business. And that wasn't necessarily the hustle that I'd signed up for. Although it was a great business to be in, you all know what has happened with real estate prices over the past few years, with interest rates at almost zero, right? Asset prices have skyrocketed. And in many cases, you were competing for this same exact property over, let's say, a 3-year period, and it kept going up and up and up. One of my real estate mentors taught me back then, hey, you have to get used to buying at the new price, because if you just want the old price, you are going to be out of luck. So I learned very quickly that I needed to develop my skills and needed to figure out other ways to make money, not just faster, but more consistently, right? Without such a headache of managing individual contractors and people who didn't show up on time. I mean, you know how business goes. If I don't know why I'm preaching to the choir, if you're watching this video, you're thinking already about buying a business. And so I'm just speaking to some of the pitfalls that come with entrepreneurship when you're first getting started. But here I have a picture. I got the opportunity to work with professional athletes, right? I got the opportunity to help people understand investment strategy, the acquisition and disposition strategy of investment properties, not just in the Southeastern United States, but I talked about having to compete for the same property, right? So I said, hey, how about I invest out of state? How about I go and spread out a bit? I raise capital, I deploy it, I'm doing the thing, right? I'm doing the thing that is cool, but how about I spread my wings a bit? I had the opportunity, because of a little bit of the success that I had, to travel the world, and I'll zoom in on some of these because I really like to travel. People think about entrepreneurship because they want the peace and freedom to be able to travel without having to ask a boss, can I take some time off, right? And again, this is not the Maserati picture or the Lamborghini picture that you might see with a lot of social media gurus. That's not what we're here for, especially not today. I want you to think before you go buy that business, what is it that you're after? Are you after the cash flow and the experiences? Or are you after the prestige of saying, hey, I went and raised a few $1,000,000 and I was able to buy something, right? People are trusting me as the person to go and do the actual execution part of the business that helps them all and us all make money. This, again, is just documented proof, right? This check took me about 2 weeks to make. And again, I'm showing you a timeline on what I did and why I feel that in some ways I'm qualified to have this conversation with you now. Look, I made money. And after that point, right, when I was doing real estate, I was flipping houses. I was doing transactions across the country, doing transactions that didn't even take me a lot of time, right? Making checks like this without having to break my back or sweat all day and all night. I then figured out how to learn a different process, though, because I realized, hey, residential is great, but there are some parts of the market in which you're like, hey, this is a hustle that I don't necessarily know if I signed up for, especially long term, right? So I realized I had a mentor that was doing government work and that was helping on, some of those major projects you see, like a stadium project, or if you're from the Atlanta area, you remember when Atlantic Station was built. It's like these large public-private partnership projects that require government involvement, tax incentives, all of those things. What you can think about when you think about those projects is the fact that the checks are larger for those who are participating in that process. And as an individual who was enterprising, I said, hey, let me see if I can learn what that game looks like. Let me see if I can learn how money flows through the government to contractors, to construction companies, to people like me who started an enterprise and figured out how to get the largest customer in the world to pay them. So this is what it looked like. When I learned the online process of getting into the government space, I learned something that most contractors or people across the country didn't know. And so what did I do? With a consulting skill set, with a digital marketing skill set, with an online business skill set, and the ability to sell, I started a high-ticket coaching business where I was teaching people the process of how to win government contracts. And I was teaching them across the country, right? From the comfort of my apartment there while I was full-time in school. I was in school during COVID, during the pandemic. It was a crazy time. But this just shows you a month of the appointments that I was able to book. And it shows you that I was running, first of all, I was making my Facebook ads, running my Facebook ads, spending the money, managing it, managing the process, taking the calls, booking the calls, converting the calls, servicing the clients, building the course, doing all the things. And as you can imagine, at some point you get burned out doing that. What I realized, and here's some of the results, right, of those efforts. And again, there are more screenshots that I could show, but this is just to show you that the stuff was working, right? And I'll show you kind of something from just last week to show you I'm not just a person that says, hey, I learned this stuff 5 or 6 years ago, and this is what used to work in the business space or in the growth creation and growth partnership space, but this is what works now, right? But the point is, I learned that there was still a bottleneck that regardless of how smart I thought I was, if I didn't figure out, I was going to have a really long uphill battle for the rest of my life in business. And the cool thing about it is, as I'm speaking to people who have business skill sets, right? People who have invested their lives in their education, going to focus on getting good grades in K through 12, getting good grades in college, going to work for 5 or 6 years, and then going to get an MBA or a doctorate or a master's in something so that you can increase your payment floor, so that you can make $200,000 or 150, whatever the number is. I realized that because of the skill set that I had in consulting, and because of my experience having invested a pretty penny in my education before spending $200,000 on an MBA, I had invested in my personal business education because I wanted to learn how to generate money and realized that a 2-week paycheck was very different than being able to generate money from the market. What I learned was there were a couple of elements in business, really about 4, especially in the type of business that I was in. There were about 4 elements in business that would allow me to go from an individual that had to go raise capital, deploy capital, take on a bunch of risk, a bunch of debt service, a bunch of people that were working for me who I depended on to help me make the money in ways that I didn't necessarily want to because it was a bit more involved than you may want to be as somebody who's gotten so much time invested in your skill set. I realized that there were about 4 elements in business that if you could solve for them, just like a math problem, right? The folks who are watching this video who have probably done a math problem before. I'm not a math genius, but it's just like a math problem. If you can solve for these variables, then you don't have to worry where your next customer or client are going to come from. And you really don't have to worry about money for the rest of your life if you're able to learn the skill of generating attention, being able to capture that attention, educate the individual that you've gotten their attention, right, for whom you've gotten their attention, and then converting that attention into actual dollars in your business bank account and being able to deliver and fulfill on the promise that you made them in whatever you were selling them in the first place. It becomes a feedback loop that I'm telling you is tremendous. It makes you feel pretty good about the fact that you spent all that time in school paying attention, right? You spent time, like I did, in an MBA program where this is a gift of me actually being the commencement speaker for my entire class. I was honored to do that. But I just want to, again, show you that I went to the school that I said I did. It's not to brag. It's just to show you that I'm having this conversation from a position of someone who's been informed and who knows people across the country who are in the very same position that you are in right now as you watch this video, right? Wondering how you take the skills that you've invested so heavily in, invested over a decade in your education, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars and definitely thousands of hours, right? Trying to figure out how to increase your payment floor so that you can live the life that you want, so that you can enjoy some of that peace and shareable freedom, which I'll talk much more about on my channel, so that you can take some of the trips that you've been thinking about for years, but may not have time to actually take because the work does not stop in the corporate job that you went to go get, so that you can figure out how to take the MBA and take the $200,000 salary and turn it into a lifetime of income that you do not necessarily have to grind 60 plus hours a week for. I'm here to talk to you about that. Because the reason why you clicked on this video is probably because you were thinking about buying a business. You were thinking about how you can reach that cash flow number that allows you to exit the corporate rat race, even if you're at the top of the rat race, even if you're running fast, even if you are number 1 or 2 in the rat race, you might still be in it and you may be trying to figure a way out. This isn't network marketing. I'm not telling you something that is smoke and mirrors where you sell some kind of salad or potion or pill or weight loss program. That's not what this is at all. I'm teaching you the process to be able to take any business that needs clients and scale it to the 100K or month mark. The 100K a month or more mark, so that you don't have to worry where your next dollar is going to come from because you have the skill set and the systems to be able to leverage not just your time, but the time of people around the world on your teams to provide a suite of services to any business that needs clients and install a client acquisition system where you can utilize your professional skill set, whether it be sales, marketing, business, psychology, whatever it is. You can leverage the things that you spent so much time learning and build a business that will pay you consistently more than you may have ever thought possible, at least from your current position. Look, I'm someone who very early on in life, unfortunately, it happened when I was like 22 years old, where I learned that there are very few promises in the professional world. And one of them that I know almost does not ever exist is that a company will take care of you and your family if things don't go as planned, if life happens, if trauma happens. Again, there are some really great companies out here, but none of them are to be responsible for your well being in perpetuity because they like you. And the MBA that you got, let's say it does promise you a floor of $150,000 while you work really hard for the rest of your life. The question is, do you feel like that's what you actually wanted? Or did you actually want the money and the access and the friendships and the relationships globally and the opportunity to be a global player or even a local player that's just very comfortable and living a good life? I want to talk you through the process, if you stay on this channel, of how to build a growth partner business where not only can you charge $10,000, $15,000 to businesses to walk them through this process and do the thing that allows them to build the systems. You can build it for them or you can do it with them, but you can charge them $5, $10, $15,000 up front, and you can also secure a portion of the upside revenue. Because if you can scale any business, the question is, if you can take a business from making $20,000 a month to $120,000 a month, do you deserve some of the upside? You answer it. Answer it for yourself. And if you think that you do, this is a model that you should absolutely learn. It includes having a suite of services, having a leveraged team, having a very refined offer, an ideal client, so that you're not spraying and praying, hope that you can get any client in the market in the world. You want to speak to a very specific type of clientele, to leverage your very specific set of skills, to follow a very specific system that you can customize to your desire, to your desired wealth level or income level, and then execute consistently until you reach the exact place where you want to be. And the truth is, in the corporate space, there is an opportunity to get promoted. You wouldn't be thinking about buying a business if you weren't interested in making some kind of money. So I don't have to shy away from the idea of making money. But what I do want to do in this conversation and in many others that you'll find on this page is walk you through what it looks like to actually be able to deliver on the promise that you made to yourself all those years ago, when you decided that you wanted to be someone that wasn't just regular or wasn't just cool because they had the opportunity to have a business card and lay it on the table, but instead you were someone who took the skills that you invested, your family invested, that you and your community invested in, and used those skills to be the business owner that you know you can be. There are a couple things that I'll finish with, and I promise I'll make it short. It probably hasn't been short this far, but it's because this is the topic that I'm actually passionate about. If you have a desire, if you have a desired reality, and it's far from your current reality, the truth is the people that are making 10 times more money than you, or even 100 times more money than you, even if you're making $200,000, there's someone making 10 to 100 times more money than you. But those people don't have 10 times or 100 times more hours in the day. They're not 10 to 100 times smarter than you. They don't have 10 to 100 times more luck than you have. They know something that's different than what you know, and they're able to leverage other people's time, skills, and money in a way that you currently are not. But the cool thing is, that is a problem that you can solve. And if you stick around on this page, we're going to walk through the process of how to solve it. If any of this sounds interesting to you, if you're still thinking about buying that business and going and taking the $1 million to $5 million worth of debt, go ahead and do it. I am not at all discouraging you from doing that. What I am suggesting, though, is that you think about your actual goal. In the same way that you want to identify your ideal client, I want you to think about your ideal lifestyle. And the question is, do you want the cash flow or do you want the prestige? Right? Do you want the business position or do you want the profit? If you want the latter, you want the peace and shareable freedom, which is a topic that I'm really going to dive into on this page. If you want any of those things, then I think you should stick around, because there's an opportunity for you to learn something that you do not currently know so that you can get to a result that you have not yet currently reached. And I look forward to having that conversation with you. If you're interested, go ahead and click the link below here in the description or somewhere close so that you can set up time to speak with my team. And I may even speak with you one-on-one, especially if we work together, because what we would love to do is show you for free for about 15 minutes what the process would look like if it were applied to you and your skills, and how you can leverage this system, the growth partner and growth creator system, to become the business owner that you know you can be and to live the lifestyle that you know you desire. Look, again, this isn't network marketing. I'm not selling smoke. I'm talking about business systems. I have the background of someone who can speak to this intelligently and not just as a fly by night individual who hopes to convince you to do something that you weren't going to do before. Instead, I want to walk you through a process and let you be informed enough to make a decision that's best for you. And hopefully, as we stick together on this journey, as I share more information on my channel, you can follow me on Instagram. I'll share great information there. Hopefully, as we continue down this journey, you realize that for you, this is a real path that you can take. And you can leverage all the skills that you've invested in thus far to get to the place where you want to be so that you can take care of yourself and the people that you care about in ways that before may not have been possible, but now they absolutely are. I look forward to talking soon.